Dear God, please keep working on me. That's not just a prayer. It's a cry from the soul of someone who refuses to settle for average. You see, we live in a world that celebrates perfection, but God celebrates progress. People might look at your flaws and say you're not ready, but God looks at your heart and says, you're still in process. Hear me. God never stops working on what He plans to use. If you're still breathing, you're still becoming. So don't judge your journey too early. You're not finished yet. God's workshop is your life. Every masterpiece begins as a mess. Before the painting is framed, the brush must first strike the canvas in ways that don't make sense. Before the gold gleams in the jeweler's window, it must first survive the furnace. Before the diamond sparkles on a crown, it endures the crushing pressure of the earth. And before you reflect the glory of God, you must walk through seasons that break, mold, and stretch you in ways you didn't ask for. That's the process of greatness. That's God's workshop. Life is not happening to you. It's happening for you. Every storm, every closed door, every painful goodbye is a chisel in the hands of a divine sculptor. You may not see the pattern, but God does. He's not trying to destroy you. He's shaping something within you. You are His project, His vessel, His living artwork in progress. And when God works on something, He never leaves it unfinished. Sometimes you look around and wonder, why does it feel like I'm always under construction? That's because purpose is not a product, it's a process. The world celebrates arrival, but heaven celebrates development. While others are rushing to show off results, God is focused on building your roots. He's more interested in who you're becoming than what you're doing. You can build a business, you can gain a platform, you can achieve success. But if your character can't sustain it, you'll collapse under the weight of your own blessing. That's why God works in silence before He works in public. Think about it. Even a seed has to disappear beneath the soil before it breaks into life. The darkness of the dirt is not its burial ground, it's its birthplace. The pressure you feel, the isolation you endure, the confusion you face, these are not punishments. They are proofs that God is still working on you. You're being planted, not buried. And when the time is right, what's been forming in private will bloom in public. You see, when a sculptor starts with a rough block of marble, the material doesn't look valuable. It's heavy, rigid, unshaped. But in the artist's mind, he already sees the masterpiece within. Every strike of the hammer, every chip that falls away is intentional. It looks painful from the outside, but every hit is bringing the hidden image closer to the surface. That's what God is doing with your life. The disappointments you faced were not random blows. They were divine refinements. The betrayals you suffered were not setbacks. They were sandpaper moments, rubbing off what didn't belong to your destiny. Maybe you've asked yourself, why did that friend walk away? Because their season in your sculpture ended. Why did I lose that job? Because that environment couldn't handle your next level of design. Why did I have to struggle so long? Because pressure reveals integrity. If God promoted you before preparing you, the very thing you prayed for could destroy you. So He allows pressure not to punish, but to polish. Even Jesus spent years in preparation before His public moment. Think about that, the Son of God, hidden for decades, growing, learning, being shaped. Why? Because the invisible years prepare you for the visible assignment. Don't despise your workshop season. It's not glamorous, it's quiet. It's filled with questions, discipline, pruning, and sometimes loneliness. But those are the environments where destiny is refined. Imagine a potter working with clay. The clay doesn't complain, "This wheel is spinning too fast." It simply yields to the pressure of the potter's hand. The potter knows when to press harder and when to ease up. He knows the exact amount of water needed to keep the clay soft. He knows how long it must spin before it's ready for the fire. That's how God works with you. He knows your limits. He knows your process. And He knows that if He stops too soon, you won't be strong enough to carry the glory that's coming. But let's be honest. The workshop is uncomfortable. You'll have days when you feel overlooked, abandoned, or unqualified. You'll wonder why your prayers take longer to answer than others. You'll see others getting blessed while you're still waiting. But remember this, God builds skyscrapers slower than shacks. The higher He plans to take you, the deeper He must first dig. Don't curse the digging. The foundation determines the future. Every person you admire today went through a workshop season yesterday. That successful entrepreneur once failed repeatedly. That powerful speaker once stuttered. That anointed leader once questioned their worth. What made them great wasn't their comfort. It was their commitment to the process. They stayed in God's workshop long enough to let Him refine their weaknesses into weapons. When you're in the workshop, God will often isolate you. Not to punish, but to prepare. The most valuable things in life are developed in secret, like pearls in an oyster or babies in a womb. What's growing in you requires privacy. Don't mistake isolation for abandonment. God hides what He's developing because He knows premature exposure can destroy potential. So when life gets hard, don't say, "God, take me out." Say, "God, take me through." Don't say, "Why me?" Say, "Work on me," because every problem you face is a class in disguise. Every obstacle is an opportunity to prove that faith still works. You are being trained, trimmed, tested, and transformed for a greater glory. The world may see the rough edges, but God sees the reflection forming underneath. You might not feel perfect, but you are perfectly positioned for progress. The pressure is proof that heaven hasn't given up on you. The fact that you're still being worked on means there's still more inside you to reveal. Transformation requires surrender. Transformation requires surrender. You cannot become what God designed you to be while holding on to what He's trying to take away. Many people pray for change, but resist the process that brings it. You see, God does not simply want to improve your life. He wants to transform it. And transformation always begins with surrender. Until you release control, you cannot be remade. Until you let go of what you think you know, God cannot reveal what you've never seen. Most people want the outcome of transformation without the surrender that precedes it. They want peace but won't release the pain. They want elevation but refuse to leave their comfort zone. They want new blessings but still cling to old habits. You cannot hold on to your past and reach for your future at the same time. The old version of you must die for the new one to live. Just like a seed must fall to the ground and break open before it can grow into a tree, your growth begins when your pride breaks. Think of the butterfly. Everyone admires its beauty, its freedom, its color, but nobody volunteers for the process. The caterpillar has to crawl into a dark, lonely cocoon. It must stay still while its old form dissolves. Inside that cocoon, it is literally broken down to liquid. That's what surrender looks like. Allowing God to melt away everything that doesn't align with His design. And when the time is right, you emerge stronger, freer, radiant with the evidence of divine transformation. The cocoon was never punishment, it was preparation. Some of you are in that cocoon right now. You feel isolated. You feel forgotten. You can't move the way you used to. That's because God has you in transition. He's working behind the scenes to rearrange what you couldn't fix. You prayed for change, and this is His answer, not always comfort, but construction. Don't fight it. Don't rush it. Transformation is not an event, it's a process, and processes are painful. We often say, "God, use me," but when He begins to shape us, we cry, "God, stop." The truth is, you can't be used until you've been changed. You can't reflect heaven while still clinging to earthly patterns. God will touch what you don't want Him to touch. He'll challenge your comfort. He'll expose your motives. He'll close doors you thought were your destiny because He knows you're asking for more than your current version can handle. Sometimes He'll even allow heartbreak, not to harm you but to hollow you, so He can fill you with something greater. Think about Abraham. God told him to leave his country, his family, his father's house, and go to a place he didn't know. That's surrender. Imagine walking away from everything familiar because God said, Trust me. Transformation always starts with trust. You can't hold the map and expect God to lead. You must be willing to say, God, I don't understand, but I'll obey. Because obedience will open doors that understanding never could. In life, surrender might look like forgiving someone who doesn't deserve it. It might look like letting go of a relationship that's comfortable, but not aligned with your purpose. It might look like starting again from nothing, believing that God's plan is still better. Real surrender isn't passive, it's powerful. It's saying, God, I give you the pen to write my story, even if you erase what I thought was permanent. Sometimes God will strip you down to build you up. He'll remove your plan so he can reveal his purpose. And that hurts, because surrender doesn't feel like victory. It feels like loss, it feels like confusion. But when you finally let go, peace begins to flow where control once lived. The weight you carried begins to lift. That's when you discover that surrender is not weakness, it's wisdom. It's trusting that the one who made you knows what's best for you. Every transformation demands a sacrifice. You cannot receive the next level of glory while clinging to the last level of comfort. A cup already full cannot be filled again. Sometimes God has to empty you so he can fill you with something new. That's why the most powerful prayer you can pray is not, God, bless me, but God, break me. Because when you're broken in his hands, he can shape you again. When you release control, he releases power. Think about the story of the blacksmith. When he wants to make a strong sword, he takes the metal and places it in the fire. The heat softens it. Then he hammers it again and again, folding it over to remove every weak point. The sword doesn't fight the hammer, it yields, because only through that surrender does it gain strength. That's how God transforms a person: fire, pressure, and surrender. Maybe you're being hammered by life right now. Financial struggles, rejection, loneliness, uncertainty. It's easy to question God's love during those moments, but the very thing that hurts you might be the hand that heals you. When you surrender, you stop asking, why me? And start saying, work in me. You stop fighting the process and start trusting the purpose. And in time, the same areas that broke you will become the testimony that blesses others. Transformation is messy. It's the in between where your old habits are dying, but your new identity hasn't fully emerged. You may lose friends. You may lose opportunities. You may even lose yourself for a moment. But what you'll gain, peace, clarity, strength, divine purpose, will make it all worth it. God cannot transform what you refuse to release. The longer you cling to control, the longer you delay your destiny. When you finally say, God, I surrender, take the wheel, take the weight, take my will, everything begins to shift. That's the moment heaven moves. That's when you stop trying to make things happen and start allowing God to make them right. You'll notice people walking away, not because you failed, but because they can't go where you're going. You'll notice peace in chaos, joy in trials, and confidence without explanation. That's transformation through surrender. So when life pushes you to the edge and everything feels uncertain, don't pull away from God's hands. Lean in, yield, let him break what's blocking your blessing. Because the moment you surrender, transformation begins to take shape in ways that will leave you unrecognizable. Not to destroy the old you, but to reveal the version God saw all along. Reflection requires refinement. You don't reflect God by copying his image. You reflect him by allowing his nature to be formed within you. Reflection doesn't come from imitation. It comes from refinement. You can't truly shine until you've been purified. A mirror can't reflect clearly until the dust is wiped away. And your spirit can't reveal divine glory until life's fire has burned off what doesn't belong. The reason some people lose their shine is because they ran from the refining season. Everyone wants the glory, but few want the grind. Everyone wants to glow, but nobody wants to go through the fire that makes the glow pure. Gold doesn't complain about the furnace. It understands that fire is the only path to value. When the goldsmith places raw gold into the heat, the impurities rise to the surface. That's how he knows the process is working. The hotter the fire, the clearer the reflection. It's the same with you. When the heat of life intensifies, when everything feels like it's falling apart, that's not punishment, it's refinement. God is allowing the pressure to expose what needs to be purified. Every insecurity, every wrong motive, every hidden fear starts surfacing when life gets hard. Not because he's trying to shame you, but because he's trying to shape you. He wants to see his reflection in your response. Refinement isn't glamorous, it's gritty. It's those long nights when you're wrestling with doubt, but still choosing to believe. It's when you're misunderstood but stay silent because you know vindication belongs to God. It's when you want to quit, but decide to stand anyway. That's refinement. Every trial you endure polishes your character. Every test you pass reveals a new level of maturity. When you choose peace over panic, forgiveness over fury, faith over fear, that's reflection. People start seeing something in you that the world can't explain. They see calm in chaos, light in darkness, purpose in pain. That's how God's glory becomes visible on earth, through refined vessels who stayed in the fire and didn't run. Think about a diamond. Before it dazzles in the light, it's buried deep in the earth, surrounded by darkness, under intense pressure. Nobody praises the diamond during that phase because it doesn't look like one. It's just a rough stone. But when the jeweler cuts it, precisely, painfully, intentionally, suddenly it begins to reveal brilliance. That's how refinement works. Every cut God allows in your life is calculated. He's cutting away arrogance, insecurity, dependency, and fear so that what remains is clarity and value. You may not like the cut, but you'll love the shine. Refinement is the process of alignment, where your spirit, mind, and character begin to match God's image. Sometimes God will use people as mirrors to show you areas that need growth. He'll send a difficult boss to test your patience, a stubborn friend to test your love, a betrayal to test your forgiveness. You pray for strength, and he gives you situations that require it. You ask for wisdom, and he sends confusion to train your discernment. That's refinement in motion. Life doesn't change when you pray. It changes when you change. And change is always uncomfortable. There's a reason silver is purified 7 times before it's declared ready. The number 7 represents completion. It means the silversmith keeps returning it to the fire until he can see his own face reflected in it. That's what God does with your soul. He keeps refining you until your thoughts, words, and actions mirror his nature. And when he looks at you and sees himself, the process is complete. Until then, the fire remains necessary. You might feel like you've been in the same test again and again, but that's because God doesn't promote unfinished work. He's not trying to break you. He's trying to bring out brilliance. Many people pray, God, make me more like you, but they expect that to come through comfort. It doesn't. Refinement happens in friction. You can't reflect purity without pressure. It's in the tough seasons, the rejections, the delays, the losses, that your true reflection starts forming. That's why you can't despise small beginnings or painful middles. The middle is messy, but it's also where the miracle is being shaped. You can't skip the sanding and expect a smooth surface. Every scar you carry becomes part of your shine. Look at people who radiate peace. They didn't get that from easy lives. They got it from hard lessons. They learned how to worship through worry, how to love through loss, how to keep faith when nothing made sense. Their glow comes from refinement. Their silence comes from understanding that God fights better than they do. Their patience comes from realizing that storms don't last forever. The beauty you admire in others was formed in seasons you didn't see. Refinement also requires honesty. You have to be willing to face the truth about yourself, the ego that wants to control everything, the pride that hides behind false confidence, the fears that whisper, you're not enough. God can only refine what you're willing to reveal. You can't heal what you keep hidden. The refining fire doesn't destroy, it exposes. It reveals your raw form so that the master can shape you into something extraordinary. That's why certain friendships fell apart, why opportunities dried up, why plans failed. God wasn't rejecting you, He was redirecting you into refinement. When gold comes out of the furnace, it doesn't boast about surviving. It just shines. And when you emerge from your refining season, you won't need to explain yourself to anyone. The glow will tell the story. The peace will prove the process. The transformation will speak louder than your pain ever could. Because reflection isn't about appearance, it's about essence. The world doesn't need perfect people, it needs polished ones. Those who've been through the fire and still carry light. Those who can stand in the storm and still love with purity. Those who carry wisdom born from wounds. The more refined you become, the more clearly heaven is seen through you. That's why God doesn't rush your process. He's not after speed. He's after substance. He's refining your responses, your attitude, your faith. He's teaching you that the power to reflect Him doesn't come from avoiding pain. It comes from overcoming it. And when you've endured the heat long enough, you'll notice that what once hurt you now helps you. What once broke you now builds you. What once defined your weakness now displays His strength. Glory is revealed. Not given glory is not something that falls on you like a spotlight. It's something that's revealed through what you've endured. The glory of God is not a medal you wear. It's a manifestation of what He has shaped within you through time, pain, and obedience. Everyone wants glory, but few are willing to go through what glory costs. You can't skip the process and expect the presence. You can't crave the crown and reject the cross that shapes your character. Glory is revealed in the hidden places where nobody claps, nobody notices, and nobody praises you. But heaven is watching how you respond when life presses you from every side. When the Bible says, Christ in you, the hope of glory, it means that glory doesn't come from outside experiences, it's birthed from within. It's not something God hands you, it's something He develops in you. Glory is the revelation of God's power, His wisdom, His peace, and His excellence through your life. And that means the things you thought were destroying you are actually revealing Him. Every storm you've survived, every tear you've cried, every time you chose faith when fear made more sense, those moments didn't just make you stronger, they made you shine brighter. Glory can't be borrowed. You can't copy someone else's process and expect their outcome. Their pain produced their reflection. You have your own furnace, your own story, your own scars that are shaping your shine. When God wants to reveal His glory through you, He doesn't start with the stage. He starts with the struggle. The stage is public, but the struggle is private. The private process is what builds the spiritual weight that makes your life carry the presence of God. When people see peace in you during chaos, that's glory. When they see joy in you, when everything falls apart, that's glory. When they see forgiveness flow from your heart after betrayal, that's glory. Glory is not about what you have, it's about what you carry. Sometimes God hides His glory inside your pain. Think about that for a moment. The same fire that you begged God to take away was the very fire that refined you into who you are now. You prayed for an easy path, but He gave you endurance. You asked for immediate blessing, but He gave you wisdom instead. Glory is not revealed through what's easy, it's revealed through what's endured. The road to glory is paved with patience, obedience, and trust in the unseen. Look at the sun. It never announces itself. It simply rises and everything around it changes. That's how God's glory works. When it's revealed through you, the environment around you shifts. Darkness has to flee. Confusion finds clarity. Broken people feel peace. Glory transforms ordinary presence into divine impact. But before that light shines, it must be hidden, formed, and tested. There are seasons when God covers you, not because He's forgotten you, but because He's forming you. He hides what He's preparing until the right time. You may feel unseen, but you're being developed in secret. When the moment comes, He'll reveal the glory, and no one will be able to deny that it was Him working all along. Glory doesn't come through recognition, it comes through revelation. People often chase titles, applause, and approval, thinking those are signs of glory. But true glory isn't measured by likes or followers. It's measured by transformation. It's what happens when your presence brings peace, when your voice brings healing, when your words carry weight, because they were born in the fire of experience. Glory is when people encounter you, but leave talking about God. You can't fake glory. You can imitate talent, you can rehearse skill, you can practice performance. But glory is divine evidence. It shows up when your life tells a story that only God could write. You were broken, but now you're whole. You were lost, but now you walk in purpose. You were rejected, but now you radiate confidence that comes from knowing who you are in Him. That's glory revealed. You didn't earn it, you endured it. In daily life, you can see this truth unfold in simple ways. Think of a mother who keeps her family together through years of struggle. Her strength is glory revealed. Think of the man who keeps integrity in business when he could have cheated. His character is glory revealed. Think of the person who forgives when revenge would be easier. His peace is glory revealed. Glory shows up in the mundane moments when heaven's values outweigh human reactions. It's when love wins over bitterness, faith over frustration, service over selfishness. The beautiful thing about glory is that it doesn't just elevate you, it illuminates others. When people witness what you've survived, they see possibility for their own lives. Your endurance becomes their evidence. Your growth becomes their guide. That's why God allows certain things to happen. He's not just working for you, He's working through you. He wants the world to see His strength through your scars. The cracks in your life are not flaws, they are channels through which His light shines. Sometimes God delays the revelation of glory because premature exposure can damage destiny. If He showed everyone the greatness inside you too soon, the wrong voices might corrupt it. So He hides you, humbles you, prunes you, until you're ready to carry the weight without pride. Glory is heavy. It's not for the fragile or the impatient. It requires endurance, discipline, humility, and a heart that says, "Not my will, but yours." Because glory is never meant to glorify you. It's meant to glorify Him through you. There's a point where you stop asking, "When will it be my turn?" and start realizing, "This is my training." Every rejection, every delay, every setback is shaping your capacity for the glory you've been praying for. You're being built from the inside out. That's why God focuses on your character before He reveals your crown. Because glory without character leads to collapse. He's forming your patience before He multiplies your platform. He's developing your discernment before He increases your influence. Glory is revealed when your life becomes a mirror that reflects heaven's nature on earth. When you walk into rooms and carry peace that others can't explain. When your very presence makes others feel seen, valued, and uplifted. When your words have power not because they're loud, but because they're born from a place of surrender. That's glory in motion, the invisible presence of God made visible through a willing vessel who stayed faithful through the fire, humble through the success, and obedient through the uncertainty. There comes a point in every journey where you stop asking God for things and start asking Him to finish what He started in you. You begin to realize that every scar has meaning, every delay had purpose, and every heartbreak was heaven's construction site. You see, the same God who began the work in you has no intention of leaving you unfinished. He doesn't abandon His projects. He doesn't discard His process. When He works until His glory is visible in you. That's why you can't give up now. You may not see it yet, but you're glowing in places you used to be broken. You're stronger in areas you once felt weak. You're standing in grace that once had to carry you. That's not luck. That's evidence. Evidence that God has been molding, shaping, refining, and transforming you for a purpose greater than your pain. Every test you survived was training. Every season that broke you was building you. Every disappointment was a divine appointment dressed in disguise. Life may have stripped you, but God was clothing you in endurance. The people who left weren't your loss. They were your lesson. You don't need everyone to believe in you, when heaven already approved you. Stop trying to prove yourself to those who misread your process. They saw you in pain, God saw you in preparation. They saw pressure, God saw potential. They saw loss, heaven saw glory forming. You don't owe anyone an explanation for your becoming. The light you carry will do the talking. One day you're going to look back and realize that the places you cried were the same places God taught you to stand. The nights you thought would break you were the nights that built your faith. The times you questioned if you'd ever rise again will become the very chapters that inspire others to rise too. Because when God finishes His work, you won't look like what you've been through. You'll walk in rooms that once intimidated you and realize that the fire didn't burn you. It baptized you. It purified your focus, strengthened your soul, and ignited your purpose. Don't rush the process. Greatness takes time. Diamonds don't form overnight, and neither do destinies. Every season has an assignment, every delay has a design, and every struggle has a sermon hidden inside it. You're not behind, you're being built. God doesn't construct skyscrapers with shortcuts. The higher He plans to take you, the deeper He digs your foundation. So if life feels heavy right now, it's because He's anchoring your purpose to something unshakable. When you feel like you can't go on, remind yourself, pressure never destroys purpose, it reveals it. Gold doesn't fear the fire because it knows that fire only exposes its worth. And you, my friend, are worth every moment of refinement you've endured. Keep standing even when you don't understand. Keep believing even when you don't see results. Keep praying even when heaven feels silent, because silence doesn't mean absence. It means strategy. God is arranging pieces in places you can't yet see. And when it all comes together, when the storm clears and the dust settles, people won't recognize you. Not because you changed outwardly, but because glory leaves a mark that transformation can't hide. You'll speak with wisdom that came from wounds. You'll walk with authority that came from adversity. You'll love deeper, stand taller, and shine brighter because you didn't give up in the fire. You grew through it. So wherever you are in your journey, whisper this with conviction. Dear God, keep working on me. Don't stop when it gets uncomfortable. Don't stop when I get weary. Don't stop until I reflect your glory. Because when you ask God to finish His work, you give Him permission to turn every valley into vision, every battle into breakthrough, and every pain into power. You are not a failure. You are a formation in progress. You are not lost. You are being led. You are not forgotten. You are being fashioned for something magnificent. Let the world call it struggle. Heaven calls it shaping. You may bend, but you will not break. You may cry, but you will not collapse. You may fall, but you will rise again, stronger, wiser, sharper, and shining with the evidence of divine glory. The masterpiece is not in the making of your image. It's in the making of your spirit. And when the world sees what God has been forming in silence, they will understand why you had to go through everything you did. Every bruise, every battle, every lonely night, it was all preparing you for this moment, this purpose, this reflection. Because when God finishes His work, you won't just shine, you'll illuminate everything around you with His glory.